Is this thing recording? Testing. One dose trace. Okay. Time to read what I did not or could not read yesterday. This is really awkward because I'm in a different position again. But that's not really the point, so I'm going to hopefully scroll down with this. Oh, I thought I uninstalled this. Oh, that is so annoying. Oh, thank goodness. It's like, yep, you're going up at the corner. No one wants you. Get out of here. Thank you. That's so much better. Okay. They'll be here. Twist mumbled as she adjusted the settings on the walkie-talkie she had procured. The Crusaders are way too excited about this to be late. I'm sure they're on their way. Twist had barely finished her sentence when the sound of voices was heard on a nearby lane. Two fillies, Applebloom and Sweetiebelle, came trotting into the yard and up to Dinky and Twist. Howdy, Applebloom greeted. Scootaloo here yet? She said she'd probably be here before us. Nope, said Dinky. I wonder what's keeping her. Actually, I'm right here, came Scootaloo's voice. The four fillies in the yard looked around in surprise, but aside from the disembodied voice, there was no indication of Scootaloo's presence. A moment later, a large round rock lying on the grass began to jingle, before flipping over entirely, revealing that it was in fact a hollow papier-mâché shell that looked like a rock. Concealed in the space beneath the small orange Pegasus was the small orange Pegasus that had been previously eluded detection. Hi, Prepony, Scootaloo said calmly, relishing the shocked looks from her classmates. Do you like my eavesdropping rock? I've been here for 20 minutes, and none of you knew it until I showed myself. Scootaloo is our spying expert, Sweetiebelle explained. She had some, past experience with it. Yeah, and I've gotten pretty good at it, too, Scootaloo bragged. After all, Rainbow Dash doesn't like spies very much, so I really have to make sure she doesn't catch me. That's kind of awkward, Scootaloo. Do you agree? Of course you do, because that's kind of weird. That reminds me, Applebloom cut in. Did you bring all the spy gear, Scootaloo? Scootaloo responded by reaching under her false rock again and retrieving a large black backpack. Everything we need is in here, she said smugly. Well, except the walkie-talkies, since those are being supplied. Twist took this as her cue to distribute the walkie-talkies to the waiting fillies, after which the four of them turned to Dinky. All right, boss, Sweetiebelle said. What's the plan? We need to investigate the dinner guests that are visiting today. The dinner guest that's visiting today, Dinky said. He and my mom are co-workers, and I'm trying to figure out if they're hiding some crucial detail of information from me. I need you three to infiltrate the cottage during the dinner party and relay any information you may uncover directly to Twist via walkie-talkie, who will be taking notes on any findings from a concealed location up the road. Okay, said Scootaloo. What exactly do you need us to do? Both Mom and Breeze are suspicious in this situation, Dinky said, so Scootaloo, you need to make sure not to let Breeze out of your sight, while making sure he doesn't see you. And Applebloom, you need to do the same with my mom. I'll be there too for the most of it, but if either of them leaves the room for any reason, you need to follow them and see what they're up to. What about me? Sweetiebelle asked. Sweetie, I need you to sneak in and root through Breeze's saddlebags, Dinky continued, but you have to make sure there's no evidence that you've done so. Living with Rarity has probably given you the innate sense of organization, so I think I can trust you to put everything back exactly how you found it. The Crusaders nodded and began chattering to each other about this epic spy plans they had already formulated. I'm counting on you three, Dinky said. This isn't a game. What we discovered today could have an important effect on my future. Please don't let me down. The Cutie Mark Crusaders saluted their instruction. A moment later, a knocking sound was heard from inside the house. He's at the front door, Dinky gasped. Twist, head to your station now. And you three, follow me. We only have a few minutes. Moments. I only have a few moments to get this pension before something happens. Dinky crept into the back of the door of the cottage, followed closely by the Crusaders, all of whom were now dressed in black spy gear outfits Scooby had provided. That's kind of weird. I know you. I know you have one. Yes, I'm talking to you, Pinky. Scooter had provided, and there was the sound of Ditsy-Doo opening the front door that made the proceedings into the front yard to greet Breeze, which meant there was less than a minute for the spies to take their position. Sweetie Belle, hall closet, Dinky commanded, watching the unicorn scamper off. And you two, you're going to need to keep an eye on the kitchen area at first. Apple Bloom jumped into a mostly empty cabinet under the kitchen sink, and Scootaloo quickly flew up to the ceiling, positioning herself on one of the horizontal beams, out of sight from those below. Dinky just waited in the kitchen for her mother and the guest to return, wondering what sort of consequence the night would bring. The door swung open, and Dizzy found herself facing her crimson co-worker, carrying a paper bag in his mouth. "Hello, Breeze," she said cheerfully. "Glad you could make it. What's in the bag?" "Dessert," Breeze managed to say despite the bag in his mouth. He set the bag down on the step. "I figured I should contribute to something, so I got an apple pie and a carrot cake. Both from the same stall, by the way." He winked at Ditsy. "Looks like the apples and the carrots have consolidated their business since you ended the feud." "Oh, that reminds me," Ditsy said in a hushed tone. "Please remember not to bring up anything about shipping jobs, okay, Dinky?" Around Dinky. Breeze's jaw dropped. "You still haven't told her?" he stammered. "Ditsy, I could understand after a week or two, but it's been over half a year now since you started working with us." "I know," Ditsy said. "I definitely should have told her by now. But Breeze, just keep off the topic tonight, okay? I promise I'll tell her soon." "That's probably a good idea," said Breeze. "Or she's going to find out herself if she hasn't already." "Well, anyway, please come in," Ditsy offered, pushing open the door, and the Crusaders had only just gotten into their hiding places in time, but the two ponies entered to see only Dinky in the open. "Well, hello, Mr. Breeze," said Dinky in the sweetest Well, hello, Mr. Breeze," said Dinky in her sweetest, innocent filly voice. "I'm glad you can finally come to visit." "Hi, Dinky," Breeze said. "How are you?" "Super," Dinky announced. "Miss Cheerily didn't give us any homework this weekend, so I have lots of time to play with my friends." "That reminds me," Ditsy chimed in. "Did Twist go home? I know you were hanging out in the backyard earlier." "Yeah, she left." "Great," said Ditsy. "Then let's have dinner." She motioned towards the table, and Breeze and Dinky took their seats. Ditsy went to the kitchen and retrieved the platters. Apple Bloom took this as her cue to follow Ditsy. Luckily, Breeze was sitting with his back to the cupboard where the filly was hidden. She snuck out undetected by Breeze, but still in full view of Dinky, who jerked her head towards the kitchen ever so slightly, motioning for the Apple Bloom to hurry along. Apple Bloom slipped through the kitchen door and leapt into the nearest cabinet, being careful not to strike any of the kitchen utensils and cause a clatter. The filly poked her head and watched as Ditsy-Doo carefully gathered up all the dishes to deliver to the next room. "This would be so much easier if I was a unicorn," the mare grumbled as she struggled to balance half a dozen large plates on herself. "I need to get Dinky some quality magic education one of these days so she can help me." Ditsy slipped and tottered dangerously, barely managing to keep all the plates balanced. "But first, I need to worry about getting through this dinner," she continued. "I sure hope Breeze doesn't let anything slip about her job." The gray mare turned toward the cabinet suddenly to retrieve a knife for a loaf of fresh bread that was perched precariously on her head. Apple Bloom realized in horror that she was about to be discovered. The filly crouched down in the corner of the small space and waited for her mission's inevitable failure. Ditsy reached into the cabinet, grabbed the utensil she needed, and left, leaving a dumbstruck Apple Bloom completely undiscovered. "Wow," the filly thought to herself, "I guess Miss Ditsy's vision is even worse than I reckoned it was. Her blind spots are so big I can fit myself inside it." Once the mare had disappeared, Apple Bloom clambered out of the cabinet into a nearby closet, where she contacted Twist. "Did you catch that?" the Yellow Earth Pony asked. "I did," Twist replied, scribbling in her notebook. "The Targets has acknowledged that there is a secret being kept concerning work. Dinky's suspicions are confirmed." "What do I do now?" Apple Bloom asked. "Keep spying," Twist insisted. "We don't know any about the nature of the secret. We need more answers." Apple Bloom agreed and trotted into another room to continue spying on Ditsy. Dinky sat quietly at the table, chewing her vegetable stew quietly as she stared thoughtfully at her mother and Breeze. The filly prepared to begin her attempts to get some information out of them. The older ponies didn't notice her strangely quiet behavior. They were engaged in lively conversation about some goings-on in Cloudsdale. So, Mr. Breeze she began in her sweetest voice. What department do you work for? Do you deliver letters like Mommy? No, Breeze stammered. I'm a letter sorter. Yeah, I'm the guy that compiles all the stuff your mom needs to deliver into one place for her. I see, Dinky responded, secretly a little miffed that Breeze was able to come up with a lie so quickly. When did you join the company? I don't think I ever heard my mom talk about you before you came to visit last time. I joined not long before that, Breeze parried. Your mom's been working there for a lot longer than me. It was apparent in Breeze's voice that his heart wasn't in his excuses. Even Ditzy could tell that. But it was the best defense they had at the moment, and she had hoped that Dinky was buying it. Unfortunately for her, Dinky was not. But rather than ask another question, the filly simply took a large bite of her slice of honey oat bread. So, said Ditzy loudly, let's tell Mr. Breeze about school, Dinky. What have you been up to in Miss Cheerilee's class lately? Her attempts to unveil the truth temporarily blocked. Dinky found herself with no choice but to follow her mother's bait and change the subject. However, once the conversation turned to school, Dinky found herself relaxing a bit more. She would have time to try to get more information out of Breeze later. After all, Dinky's original reason for asking if Breeze could visit was simply to have a friendly dinner with her and her mom. Besides, if anything suspicious did happen eventually, the Crusaders would be there to record it. Hopefully. By the time dessert was served, Dinky pushed her suspicion to the back of her mind, kept dimly aware but the lingering knowledge that her hired spies were still lurking out of sight. Suddenly, the cheerful conversation was interrupted by a rapid knocking on the door. Breeze, a voice called from outside. Sorry to bother you when you're visiting some pony, but could you come here for a second? Ditzy and Breeze glanced at each other in shock. Is that what? Who's what? Dinky asked, asking him to move a hop down from her chair. Stay here, Dinky, Ditzy said. It's just a friend of Breeze's, and he needs to quickly address. The nervous mare shot Breeze a go deal with him sort of look. Breeze quickly jumped up and proceeded to the front door. Up above, Scoodloo scampered along the beams in pursuit. Breeze opened the door, coming face to face with the interrupting visitor. What are you doing here? He said in a low voice. I thought you were on a date tonight. Am, Watt said, pointing at Pinky. No, not you, Pinky. Who was waiting at the edge of the sidewalk. But we were in the area on the way back from dinner, and I needed to tell you that there's been a change of plans. I actually don't have time for you to come over tomorrow at all. There's been a bit of an emergency. Breeze raised his eyebrows. Is everything alright? Yeah, Watt said, but Pinky needs... No, not you, Pinky. But Pinky needs me to help. Are you doing this on purpose? I knew it. But Pinky needs to help her save an inanimate object. Why can't I say inanima? Apparently, it's being attacked by an army of mutant lampshade warriors. Breeze blinked. Well, whatever, but you need to get out of here. Dizzy's daughter isn't supposed to know about you yet. Watt, however, was not paying attention. He was staring at an orange filly that had descended from the ceiling by a rope behind Breeze's back. Hey, no, don't. Hey, Pinky. No! I knew it! You lies! The yellow stallion asked as his mare friend approached. Is that a spy pony, or am I just seeing things? Nope, that's a spy pony if I ever saw one, Pinky. How about, no, because they wouldn't hear you. Pinky chirped. Panicking, Scoodloo hit the emergency retract switch and was reeled up to the ceiling again, slamming painfully against it before she managed to position herself onto another beam and out of sight. Breeze turned around, but saw nothing. Listen, Watt, I have no time for games right now. Get going. I'll see you at work on Monday. Watt nodded. Okay, sorry to bother you, Breeze. Watch out for spy ponies. Watt and Pinky hopped away. Don't make me want to ignore you. What and Pinky hopped away in unison. Breeze just sighed and shut the door, returning to the dining room. Twist, come in, Scoodly whispered over her walkie-talkie. I have information. An Earth pony just visited, and claimed to be Breeze's co-worker. That's not possible, is it? Can't be, Twist said. If he's not a Pegasus, he can't work at Cloudsdale Mail and Freight. Scoodly crept back into the kitchen while Twist reviewed the information the spies had collected. This is very suspicious, the Earth filly mumbled. I wonder if Sweetiebelle has uncovered anything. Sweetiebelle stared at the locked door. She knew the Breeze's saddlebags were inside. She was just having trouble getting to them. The whitish filly had tried everything to unlock the door, but nothing had worked. She wasn't strong enough to break it down, and doing so would alert the others to her presence anyway. She was left with only one option. I'm going to have to try magic. Sweetiebelle's magical skills were rudimentary at best. Rarity had only begun teaching her the basics in the last few weeks, and the results of Sweetie's attempts were often catastrophic. She'd never even tried to unlock a door with magic. Nevertheless, she would have to give it a shot. If you could unlock doors with magic, wouldn't that mean that that would be so unsafe? But then again, Equestria is probably the safest place on Earth on Equestria. Is Equestria a planet or a country? Because I'm kind of going under the impression that it's a country. A few moments later, the doorknob simply fell. Oh god. Sweetbelle closed her eyes and concentrated as hard as she could on the inner mechanism of the lock. She tried to direct her magic as carefully as possible into the depths, coaxing it to open. A few moments later, the doorknob simply fell off entirely, startling Sweetiebelle as it clunked to the floor, and now handleless door slung open. I guess it's better than nothing, she grumbled to herself as she slunk inside. The stallion's saddlebags was silently in the corner. Sweetiebelle produced a beam of light with her horn, one trick she had learned in her studies with Rarity, and began to delicately dig through the bag's contents. Some bits, a bag of trail mix, weather schedules, tube of main gel. Sweetiebelle nearly categorized these items as she removed it from the bag. I don't know if I'm going to find any incriminating evidence here. Crumpled at the bottom of the bag was a piece of paper. Sweetiebelle flattened it out and quickly read it, scrunching up her muzzle in confusion. She wasn't sure what the contents of the paper meant, but it could be important, so she quickly copied them onto another page, replaced everything back where she found in Breeze's bag, and snuck through the back door of the cottage. One lively dinner later, it at last came for Breeze to leave. Thanks so much for the meal, Ditzy, Breeze said. You're a really good cook, by the way. Oh, it's nothing, Ditzy replied, waving away the compliment with a little giggle. Thank you for coming to visit. We should really do this again soon. We should, Dinky agreed. Despite her espionage operation, the filly had managed to have quite a lovely evening with her mother and the Pegasus. Breeze gave Dinky a pat on the head. Don't worry, kiddo. I'll be back. And Ditzy, I'll see you Monday. With a last cool smile, Breeze launched himself in the air. Ditzy and Dinky watched him disappear into the night sky. Mommy, Ditzy asked, can I go play in the backyard for a bit? Sure, said Ditzy absent-mindedly, still watching Breeze's diminishing form. Don't go too far, it's almost bedtime. Dinky trotted to the backyard where, as expected, Twist and the Crusaders had met to wait for her. So, did you find anything out? Dinky asked. Actually, yes, Twist said. Applebloom overheard your mom talking about not letting anything slip about her job. That proves your theory that she's hiding something. I'm losing my voice. It's okay. Not a big surprise, really, Dinky answered. Anything else? Scootaloo got a good look at the visiting pony that interrupted your dinner. From what we could gather, he appears to work with your mom and Breeze, but he's an Earth pony. Therefore, he can't be working at Cloudsdale Mail and Freight anymore. They can't be working at Cloudsdale Mail and Freight anymore. Dinky stopped her front hoof down triumphantly. I knew it. Now I just have to figure out where they do work. Sweetiebelle may have helped with that, actually, Twist said. What do you make of this note she found in Breeze's saddlebag? Dinky snatched the paper away from Twist and read it carefully. Assignment details. Employee, Autumn Breeze. Date, 29th of October. Address, 2020 Sunshine Way, Canterlot. From the desk of Dr. Candyfloss, CEO, Equestria Speedy Shipping Services. Tiki read the paper once more, harshly daring to believe her luck. Equestria Speedy Shipping Services, huh? She turned to the Crusaders, grinning broadly. You girls have been a great help, thanks. No spying cutie marks, though, Apple Bloom said sadly. Well, thanks for giving us a chance at least. The Crusaders trotted off from the yard, already discussing their next crusade. Dinky looked at Twist. Go home for now, Twist. Tomorrow you and I are going to start some special research. Twist nodded. Can't wait! Dinky watched her best friend rot away. I'm finally going to get to the bottom of this, Dinky mumbled to herself. I just need to find out more about Equestria Speedy Shipping Services. As always, another day of work brought another assignment for Ditsy Doo. Today, the Perky Pegasus found herself trotting through the streets of Canterlot's dazzling entertainment district as she made her way down to her destination. Is this going to be final in Octavia? What? Pinky best yes, and I will agree with her. As always, another day of work. Okay, I read about that. Ditsy, I read that. Hello, I'm from Equestria Speedy Shipping Services. Anyone here? A glow of magical light appeared, revealing a white unicorn with electric blue mane hair and violet shades standing at the DJ stand. Up here, the unicorn. Oh, that was a little loud. Up here, the unicorn called, before turning back to whatever she was doing. Ditsy trotted up the stairs to find the unicorn half wedged under the turntables. She appeared to be repairing something. One sec, the white mare mumbled. Suddenly, there was a nearly deafening blare of sound. The unicorn succeeded in fixing whatever it was that was broken, and the club's bass-heavy music began blasting as a result. There we go, she cried triumphantly, jumping to her hooves. All ready for my next show, the unicorn noticed, Ditsy clutching her ears in agony, and quickly turned down the music. Sorry about that, she chuckled. Anyway, you're the shipper, right? Yeah, said Ditsy, shaking her head violently, trying to stop the ringing. Cool, the unicorn replied. I'm Vinyl Scratch, the most wicked awesome DJ in Canterlot. I'm Ditsy Doo, Ditsy replied. Nice to meet you, Vinyl Scratch. Call me Vinyl, the unicorn responded. Full names are too formal. Right then, Vinyl, Ditsy started. Going by first impressions, you don't seem to be the shy type. Why do you need a shipper today? Vinyl's confident smile struck down a bit. Well, actually, normally you'd be right, she responded. Usually I can get my own date. Heck, sometimes I've got to deal with ponies climbing all over each other to ask me out. Unfortunately, I happen to be interested in a certain mare, who I'm pretty sure doesn't even know I exist. With a flash of magic, Vinyl pulled a poster from her saddlebag and rolled it open. The image within showed 4 ponies playing musical instruments. Vinyl slammed her hoof down right under the picture of a gray earth pony playing the cello. Right there, the unicorn announced. That there is Octavia, the cellist in the Royal Canterlot Orchestra. You need to help me get a date with her. Ditsy looked at the picture, and then back at Vinyl Scratch, and back at the picture, and back at Vinyl Scratch, and back at the picture, and back at Vinyl Scratch. Are you sure she's, your type? I mean, you two seem kind of different. The Vinyl glanced around the room nervously before leaning in closely and whispering to Ditsy. Don't tell any pony, but I'm secretly into the classical stuff as much as I am into mad bass beats. I disguise myself sometimes and attend the orchestra's performance. It's a guilty pleasure, but I went and did something stupid. I sent her an what did I say? I don't know. I'll never be able to repeat that, though. I sent her an anonymous note asking her to join me for dinner at the Canterlot Cafe tonight. Why is that a problem? Ditsy asked. As long as she shows up, you'll be getting the date you wanted. Why do you need me? Vinyl lifted her shades for a moment so Ditsy could see the "you've got to be kidding me" look in her eyes. The problem is, Vinyl said with slight annoyance, Octavia is a high societal mare. A wild, unkept pony like me is nothing more than old rubbish to her. So, what do you want me to teach you to be sophisticated or something? Ditzy asked skeptically. Final gasped. I hadn't thought of that. Do you do that? Is that a legitimate request for a shipping pony? I guess, said Ditzy uncertainly. I was forced to attend a few weeks of finishing school as a filly. I'm not perfect, but I'm not sure I read that right. But I could probably teach you basic mannerisms if that will help you. Vino produced a huge grin. You will? Oh, thanks. That's awesome. Octavia will be totally digging me in no time. Then we better get started, Ditzy said. We've only got a few hours. Geez, this is a long chapter and my eyes are hurting. Ah, my fingers, they need the cracking. I've had a rough day. And I bought Dead Space 3, which is gonna be awesome. I bought it with my Christmas money, so it's gonna be a long time before I get up to saving for, I don't know. I don't feel like buying any games this year. Because I have a 360. So I bought Call of Duty BO2, and that game's pretty fun. I don't know. It's better playing with friends because then you could just play Snapping Turtle and have fun and not be a tryhard about it. On to the game! The low hum of the cello mixed harmoniously with the melody played on the piano as two ponies filled the empty hall with music. The sounds of the strings. Oh my god, did I have my hands in front of my mouth again? Oh! The piano rose to a I don't know these words. Tumultuous, tumult, I don't know. Crescendo of a finale, and both instruments fell silent. Octavia lowered her bow with the large instrument the large instrument next to her. Excellent as always, Frederick, she said, watching the pianist stallion take a small mock bow. Why, thank you. Okay. I'm gonna have to do my accents here. Why, thank you, Frederick replied. And, of course, the piece would be nothing without your beautiful accompaniment. Hopefully it still sounds as good once all four of us play it, the mayor commented. I'm not sure the others are familiar with this piece yet. They still have a few days to practice, Frederick said. You and I, on the other hand, are basically ready for our next performance. Octavia smiled. Yes, I'm quite looking forward to a few nights off for once. Frederick grinned knowingly. Perchance is there something special going on, Octavia? Octavia's cheeks reddened ever so slightly. Actually, yes, it seems one of my fans has offered me to treat me to dinner this evening. Frederick raised his eyebrows. Now isn't that lovely, assuming of course that your date isn't simply some desperate urchin or something. Frederick, we're in the Royal Canterlot Orchestra. Hardly any pony below the upper echelons of the society would ever attend our performances. I'm confident that whoever has invited me is a tasteful music appreciator and a proper gentle pony. You're probably right, Frederick commented, but you can't be sure. Hopefully your evening will be as charming as you were expecting. Don't worry about me, Frederick, Octavia replied calmly as she packed away her cello. I'm sure everything will be fine. The gray earth pony sauntered out of the empty hall, trying to be her best to ignore the tiny doubts that Frederick had planted within her. This chapter is extremely long and my head is hurting, so I might stop after the next break in the paragraph. Not the paragraph, but the next, because they have these white lines that kind of signify like a setting change. And I might stop after that because my head is hurting. Vinyl Scratch found herself seated at the kitchen table in her apartment, impatiently waiting for her tutoring session from Ditzy. The unicorn sat as still as she could, her front hooves resting on the napkins neatly spread across her lap. Ditzy peered around the corner from the adjacent room. Okay, Vinyl, you need to pretend I'm your date so that we can practice your manners. Vinyl nodded, careful to maintain her posture, as Ditzy had instructed earlier. Ditzy trotted forward and seated herself in the other chair. Hello, Vinyl Scratch. she said pleasantly, looking at Vinyl expectantly. Hey, how you doing? Vinyl replied. Dipsy placed her face in hers. We have a lot to do, I see. The Pegasus looked back at Vinyl. Why don't we try a bit more elegant of greeting? Good evening, ma'am. It's a lovely night, wouldn't you agree? Much better, Ditsy replied. After the greeting, remember to keep conversation on light but sophisticated topics. Make sure your choice of topics is appropriate for the dinner table. Gotcha, Vinyl said. I'm not too worried about the talking part, though as long as I remember to avoid most of my slang, I think I can pass as a classy pony. The unicorn looked at the dishes spread in front of her. I'm actually more worried about table manners. That reminds me, Bitsy commented. Do you normally use magic to lift your utensils or food? Yeah, why? Don't do that tonight, Ditsy responded. What? Vinyl gasped. Why not? I always eat like that. It's a rather picky rule of fine dining, Ditsy responded. Since you are dining with, an earth pony, it's impolite for you to use magic while you eat, since she can't. In most cases, people don't care, but the rule is followed by the highest levels of society. Octavia might be offended if you don't observe it. Vinyl snorted. Then how am I supposed to eat? Hold the utensils with your hooves like everybody else, Ditsy answered. Hesitantly, Vinyl lifted a fork. The small metal implement felt so foreign. After all, she hadn't touched a dining utensil since, well, when she learned magic. Awkwardly, the unicorn attempted to few stabbing motions with it before bending her arm at an odd angle and trying to move it to her mouth. For Celestia's sake, it's not that hard, she said, demonstrating the proper movements with her own fork. Easy for you to say. You're a Pegasus, Vinyl snapped as she adjusted her pose to more accurately mimic the gray mare. Dizzy demonstrated every detail she could remember about finishing school, from arrangements of spoons and knives to the proper way to sip one's soup and the fundamentals of proper use of a napkin. Vinyl soaked in every word. Sure, it was boring, but better to be bored now than humiliated later. I think that just about covers your table manners, Dizzy said finally. And remember the most important rule. Ignore all of this unless you're at a particularly fancy restaurant or dining with a very fancy guest. The average pony would just think you're weird. Great, Lionel said sarcastically. Now I know how to spend 2 hours learning all the details of something that's not applicable 99% of the time. Why do you think I left finishing school? Dizzy said dryly. Well, actually, more like I escaped from finishing school. Whatever, that's a story for another time. What else do we need to teach you before your date? Nothing, said Vinyl hesitantly. We talked about greetings and speech patterns. We reviewed the table manners. I'm ready to know enough. I already know enough about music to keep an intelligent conversation going. I think I'm ready to go. Not quite, said Ditzy. We have to fix you up a little first. You can't go into a fancy diner looking like what you do now. What's wrong with the way I look? Asked Vinyl defensively. Ditzy sighed. Face facts, Vinyl. You look fine for going to host a wild rave party, but I wouldn't say your look is appropriate for a classy evening out. The gray Pegasus ushered Vinyl into another room, arming herself with a hairbrush. What, you're a stylist now too? Vinyl asked. You'd be surprised at the skills you pick up in this job, Ditzy answered simply. Now, let's get to work. Vinyl arrived at the posh outdoor terrace of the Canterlot Cafe, pausing to glance at her reflection in the pool of a nearby fountain. She still couldn't believe such a simple change could make her look so different. Ditzy had managed to tame the unicorn's usually unkempt mane into something that could rival even the surrounding high-status ponies. Tangles of hair no longer dangled around her face. Everything was neatly brushed back into a simple but lovely style. Bono herself, who had long since given up on ever making her unruly maid presentable, was unable to believe the sudden change. Ditzy had also smoothed out the spiky fur of Vinyl's tail. Hold on a second. Okay, it's recording. and tucked a flower behind her ear to complete the effect of her new style. One thing Vinyl was much less thrilled about, however, was the removal of her signature shades. Dizzy had insisted that the gaudy accessory was not befitting of Vinyl's new look. The unicorn removed them begrudgingly, being hesitant to expose her bright red eyes. I wonder why she didn't comment on my eyes, Vinyl thought to herself. Maybe it's because her eyes are as weird as mine. Dizzy had that's fucked up. Dizzy had flown ahead, promising to oversee the date from a hidden perch on a nearby rooftop. This left Vinyl to walk alone into the cafe. The unicorn couldn't help but notice the look she was getting from the pompous townsfolk. For once, they seemed to be looks of approval rather than disdain. That was a good sign. Vinyl sighed and moved away from the fountain, proceeding to an open table. There was nothing left to do now but wait for Octavia and hope that she will actually show up. Her breath caught in her throat when she caught sight of the gray earth pony walking up to the host's counter. "Excuse me, sir," Octavia said. "I'm supposed to be meeting a date here in I'm a few minutes late, so I suspect they're already here." The host nodded. "The white mare at the table out on the terrace is waiting for you. Enjoy your dinner." "Thank you," Octavia said, proceeding to the open patio. "Good evening, miss," Octavia said. "Thank you for the kind invitation. May I have your name?" I'm Vinyl Scratch," the unicorn answered. "I'm a big fan of the orchestra." "Why, thank you," said Octavia calmly. I always do enjoy meeting another appreciator of our ensemble. I take it by your cutie mark that you are a music aficionado as well?" "You could say that," Vinyl responded. "How lovely." Octavia produced a small smile. "What sort of instrument do you play?" I don't actually play," Vinyl stuttered. "I'm just in the music business, shall we say." Octavia tensed suddenly. "Are you a music critic? Is this an interview disguised as a date? What are you trying to do? Why do they always try to do this with me?" "Whoa, relax," Vinyl yelled at the panicking guest. "I'm not a critic, really. I'm not here to interrogate you. I just want to have dinner." Octavia blinked. "Yes, of course. Sorry, I've been under a lot of stress lately." "It's good," said Vinyl. I understand," she corrected herself, catching Octavia's surprised look at the bit of common lingo she'd let slip. Luckily, the waiter came by at the moment and took the pair's orders. Oh, crap. No! Okay. I clicked the thing instead of the arrow, and I just, skipped halfway through the thing. And let them continue the discussion. Vinyl allowed Octavia to discuss the details of the latest pieces she's been practicing, a topic on which the Earth Pony is quick to go into great depth. Vinyl listened intently, occasionally asking questions of her own, until dinner was served sometime later. The unicorn was careful to follow Ditsy's eating instructions as well, refraining to use any of her magic. "I must say, Vinyl Scratch," Octavia Cat commented over her salad, "you're quite a charming mare, quite polite and friendly, and you know about music, but when I look at you, you remind me of some pony I just can't put my hoof on." Vinyl shrugged. "I suppose it doesn't matter," Octavia mumbled. "I'll let you know when I think of it." The mare finished their meal and waited as the waiter approached with the bill. "You are checked," he said, settling the bill on the table. "Allow me," Vinyl offered. "You are my guest, after all." Vinyl dug through the bags to find the necessary the necessary funds. She pulled out a hoofful of Gotta get my tongue untied. She pulled out a hoofful of bits, but something else fell out of the bag as well. A pair of bright purple shades. Octavia stared at the eyewear for a moment, and then looked back at Vinyl, and then looked back at the eyewear, and looked back at Vinyl, who was blushing slightly. "Wait," Octavia said, her eyes widening. "Wait just a second." Suddenly, the Earth Pony leapt from her seat, and more or less tackled Vinyl, knocking her from her chair. "Ow, what are you doing?" Refusing to answer, Octavia proceeded to roughly lose Vinyl's mane. Once it was back to its usually disheveled state, she picked up the dropped shades and pressed them on Vinyl's face. That's it, she announced, admiring her handiwork. I knew I recognized you. You're the DJ from the club downtown. Vinyl struggled to her that's his feet. Struggled to her feet, glaring at Vinyl. Yes, now, are you done assaulting me? Octavia blushed. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. Whatever, said Vinyl. Guess any chance of a second date is gone now. No, 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 no. On the contrary, Octavia replied, much to Vinyl's surprise. I, kind of wanted to meet you, actually. Huh? Vinyl asked. I thought you'd only be interested in associating on an upper echelon like yourself. Octavia groaned. Vinyl, you must understand. Sometimes classy ponies can be rather boring. To be honest, I liked you immediately because, quite frankly, you're much more interesting than a lot of the ponies I know. Now that I know that you're the DJ from downtown, that's twice as nice. A pony who fits both with us gentle ponies and with some of the more exciting folk living nearby. So, you want to go out again sometimes? Octavia nodded. Definitely. Vinyl couldn't believe her luck. She hadn't expected that side of Octavia at all, but one question was still left unanswered. Well, that's all great, the white mare said, but how do you know about me? Have you ever seen me before? Octavia produced a guilty grin. Actually, on rare occasions that I have a day off, I'll sometimes disguise myself and visit your club. Call it a guilty pleasure. On a nearby rooftop, Titsy-Doo stifled a giggle. That does it for... No, don't show me the desktop. That does it for another chapter of shipping and handling. Time for the after show. Goodbye, peoples. I loved you. Goodbye. Bye-bye. Subscribe and like the video, because, you know, I like the likes. Like 2. I like them 2 likes I got on the other video, which is pretty cool, because, you know, I don't really get that much likes. Sad face. Time to read some of the random comments. Sweet. You know, Dinky could have just asked earlier about Ditsy's job and easily got it out of her to tell the truth. Stalker Lou. Okay. Are you a spy? No. Pushes spy costume under couch. Almost as awesome as the real Lou. I lost it at Mutant Lampshades. Oh man, Stalker Lou was best. Scooter Lou. I forgot that it's not a cello. I don't know what it is. Is it a cello or is it a double bass? I've completely forgot. I was just kind of reading the words, but it's a double bass, I think. I don't know, but one of the comments is, Vano slammed her hoof down right under the picture of the gray earth pony playing the cello. Stops foaming at the mouth and convulsing gets up, foam still clinging to sides of lips. It's a motherfucking double bass! Get it right! Now, if you excuse me. I love people, they're so funny. Sounds like a personal problem. That's funny. Oh man, I was waiting for the inevitable. Mommy, are you a prostitute? But I guess that wouldn't happen now. Stalker Lou. When I think of espionage, I think of Stalker Lou. Mommy, are you a prostitute? Oh, I laugh. It's so funny. Okay, at first I was like, shipping, but 8 chapters in, I'm gonna say you're doing it right. Yeah! Yeah! Oh my god, why do I have to be so crazy? I'm gonna be now white and nerdy. Gotta say, thanks for not typing twists lines with her lips. Her voice is so irritating to read as it is to hear. I totally forgot about her lisp. Lisp. Scooter Stalker Lou is best shipper. Okay, time to stop being weird about this and upload this drama thing. It's like 45 minutes long.